Hello, kids. Welcome back to Liberty Librarian. I'm your host, Heather Biederman, and it's good to see you again. It is a beautiful Thursday. It's summer. It feels like officially summer today. I actually have had the good luck that Minnesota has been opening up some of the restaurants and bars and the like. So you could have outside seating, and it's very spaced apart and social distance, but I got to go do that for a late lunch today, right before here. So I got a little sunshine and a beer on the patio, and it felt like it was almost normal for a minute there. So I was overwhelmingly thrilled. And I honestly, it was so nice to be back outside and seeing people. Although the weird thing was, I had heard, I talked a lot to the manager who was there because I just wanted to know how it was going for them. And in a very short amount of time, they had to turn their parking lot at this 7 West was the place that I went to. And they're very nice there. I highly recommend going there. They have great beers on tap. It's not their complete 50 taps, but I think they're up to 30 now. So it's definitely worth it. It reminded me of my friends Bill and Emily, who also own a bar out in North Carolina. And the common problems that they all are having is when they had to close down things suddenly in March, they had almost full kegs of beer that they had to toss out basically because they went bad. No one was there to drink it. Some of the breweries had said that he had to send back, and they some of the breweries would take them back and others wouldn't. It just seems like it's an amazing amount of hoops that they have to jump through, and I applaud them. And I know it's very difficult for everyone to be getting through this. I can't even imagine. He was so excited to be open though. And the things that they make them do, they made these tables outside. Every time he would only be able to help like one customer at a time. So he had to go out and around the building and in, and then back and out and around. And every time he went, he had to change his gloves every single time. So to me, that seemed amazing and very difficult to maintain. All the handout materials, the menus, they would have to throw away every time. So it was single use. And he had talked about if he had a QR code on the table, would you be open to using stuff on your phone? And I'm like, yeah, I think it would be a good option because then at least you're not wasting so much. But not everyone's going to go for it. Not everyone has a phone or wants to use a scanner on it. So there's a learning curve. I know I work in libraries. There's a learning curve that some people will embrace easily and that was nothing, and others they will end the earth to avoid doing anything like that. So I sympathize with the restaurants. It was an amazing ordeal for him to get this all set up, and yet like the enthusiasm, he's so happy to see people. I mean, this guy came and sat and he would chat with us for a while, and I thought it was very interesting. So it's going on everywhere, and I'm so happy that some of them are trying to come back because there's so many that have just given up already. They're closed. And how many of your favorite places that you frequent are going to be closed forever now? And it could be a lot of them. So I'm optimistic that the world will go back to sort of normal. Will it forever? It's very difficult to say, to see. But we're getting there, right? We are getting there. In your honor today, I went and got some beer. So I'm having a tasty. I get no pay for this. I'm just saying I've had a couple of these now, not in a row today or anything, but this week. And I went back and bought more because this Left Hand Brewing Company from Longmont, Colorado, Flamingo Dreams Nitro is freaking delicious. It's a berry nitro. Now I'm going to open it on camera. So it's got a little special thing in it because it's a nitro. It's kind of like those Guinness cans. It sounds amazing. I'm going to hold it up while I pour it. Right in front of the camera, right? It It's this beautiful pink. Beautiful. And it's all bubbly, delicious, yet not too bubbly. You know, you'd think with this many bubbles it would go over the top. It doesn't. It's perfection. Just right pint glass. Cheers, y'all. Oh my God. It's so good. Oh my God. So, how y'all doing this week? I hope that you're having a good time. I have been, I don't know. It's just like I live in Ground Zero for George Floyd protests. I live in Minnesota. I'm far enough from the hot action of the metro, but my heart goes out to so many people who live in those communities, and they're seeing them torn apart, and the people that have gone through systemic racism for forever now, and seeing police departments take advantage of people, and it came to a head. I mean, of course it did. You try to share your story, and everyone's always like, like, you're a white lady, who cares, right? Who cares? That's okay. I think that it touches every single one of our lives, so we should all care. And I don't belittle other people's stories, so I hope that, there we go. My camera is being weird, so hopefully it was working the whole time. I was like looking at, like, the light should be on. It shows me on camera, so we'll see. We had it, I'm in a small town, but we had protests in our town, and it was last Friday, which seems like it was so long ago, but it really wasn't. And earlier in the week, there had been more protests, and they had gotten very violent. Mankato protest was very, and St. Peter, which is just north of here, very peaceful protests. It was ideal. And I grew up being kind of a peacenik hippie, right? My best friend and I in high school, we went on peace protests, and I have no problem with people owning guns, especially like if you're using it for hunting or sport, whatever. You do you. But I really don't think that governments should be sending people into areas to kill other people. It seems very impersonal, and usually it's for something monetary that makes no sense why you would kill people. In my mind, the only real excuse for war is to protect your own property and the people in your communities. It doesn't make sense to go to other countries and do land wars, do oil wars, do whatever wars. That's my opinion, right? I have many people in my family who are former military and friends, and their service is amazing to me. I mean, I have a Viking ideology. Yes, I understand serving your community in this way is important. However, my distaste is for people in power using human beings and their blood to achieve power and to do things like that without ever having to sacrifice anything for themselves. In the old days, a general would be leading the troops. He'd be out there shooting the guns right with them. Now we just push buttons. We sit in boardrooms and kill people from far away, which I will say, I had read something about predator drones. Have you heard of them? They are very scary. I'm going to see if I can look that up. I go on tangents sometimes. Predator drones. Now, these, they say, were flying around the Twin Cities area around the George Floyd riots. And I was there. They say they're using them for surveillance, which any drone surveilling the people, obviously, Liberty Librarian doesn't like that. But these ones are very scary because many times in war situations they're equipped with guns and missiles and other weapons to kill people. Here it is, government tech. Predator drone over Minneapolis. It's in an article called GovTech, Government Technology website. Oh, I got to go through the advertisement. There we go. A large drone flew over Minneapolis this last week during the protests of the death of George Floyd. The drone belongs to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, but it's unknown who requested the aircraft. It's hush hush. I'm going to share my screen for a second so you can see a picture of what that looks like. Chrome tab. Here we go. Now, that's what it looks like. It kind of looks like a little bitty jet. It has the logo of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and it scares me. I mean, it's a lot bigger than you would think. Like when you think a drone, you're probably thinking like, I don't know, like a little bitty, those ones that kids and young adults usually have, and they fly around and videotape stuff. These are weapons, flying weapons with high tech. If you look on the bottom, they have these cameras that can like zoom in, even when they're far up in the sky. Like you can zoom down to like seeing what somebody's probably looking at on their cell phone. It's so crisp and tight. So what are they using this for? Who are they watching? Are they watching it in a military way to like figure out where to put people to stop riots? There has not been anything that has been said about what it was used for. But they said that it flew over Minneapolis at 20,000 feet. And CNN reporters claim that they witnessed at least one drone in the airspace above the city. So the spokesman from CBP said that Air and Marines Operations, AMO, unmanned aircraft system was preparing to provide live video to aid situational awareness at the request of our federal law enforcement partners in Minneapolis. The drone was directed back to its base in South Dakota when the requesting partners, who were not named in the email, determined that the aircraft was no longer needed for operational awareness. So they sent it back supposedly. Now, these carry out its missions nationwide, so they're not just used at the border. They can be used for other reasons, right? But to use this on civilian areas, in almost a war way, it doesn't breed any kind of confidence in our own government when you have this kind of dangerous. They say that from motherboard that it was an unarmed predator drone. How do you know that? I mean, are we looking at this closely? They have utilized these drones for more than a decade. But when they're used overseas, they can be used with, they can be militarized, right? They can be used to kill people if they're needed. What is the technology on them that they turn off? Are they actually carrying gunfire? I've heard so many different ways that they've used these, like dropping bombs on people. There are mass surveillance going on an unseen level when you have a protest like this. You know that, here, I'm going to switch back. Bam, me again. You know that when they are afraid. We live in a society of fear right now. It's over the top and out of control. They are using every tool that they have to watch all of us. And I've said this before, but it's our phones, it's your smartwatches, it's everything on you. It's your cars are tuned into satellites. There are cameras on doors. There are enough tools all around in the system, and federal government absolutely has access. They can get into all of these. Local law enforcement is always trying to get access to these. This is the problem. They're using public health as an excuse to limit all of our freedoms, and we should be a little bit terrified. Now, going back to that predator drone story, I just wanted to finish it out. The mass surveillance of protesters because they're exercising their First Amendment rights or because a small handful may engage in unlawful activity is oppressive and bad policy, said Catherine Crump, director of Samuelson Law, Technology, and Public Policy Clinic at the University of California, Berkeley. She said that she disagreed with the drone being used in Minneapolis last week. It shouldn't have been. There are powerful technologies. They have automatic license plate readers, cell phone tracking devices that are used to identify everyone who's in a given area. The police should not use these technologies in a dragnet fashion to sweep up protesters. This hurts the rights of normal civilians going about their days. Are we all guilty before proven innocent? That is not the way our country should run, and this is the way they're treating it. They even flying a predator drone over protesters is uncalled for, giving the association between these drones and our wars in places like Afghanistan and Yemen. So we're using war tools. We've called in the troops in Minneapolis area. They have the National Guard were called in to help kind of contain what they considered the riots. But what I feel is when you do something like that, it actually makes it intensify, because now not only do you have police who we don't trust, but we're used to, and now you're bringing unknown people. Military, are they here to kill us? That's what people are going to think. So you've taken a situation from a dangerous situation to a terrifyingly dangerous situation. And the only way to stop this is to let it kind of calm down. And they're intensifying it by overkill. It's just overkill. The things that are being done right are letting communities self-patrol. They have like community watches up in St. Paul for sure, and Minneapolis areas where people are watching out for each other's businesses, helping each other. It was some beautiful community showing of care where people were in some of the parks. They brought out donations of groceries, and they have set up like basically like little clinics, like little like war hospitals, really, to take care of the wounded and sick and people who are hurt. And not to mention, we live in this time where there's COVID-19 too, and it has gotten to the point where people don't care. This is too big to ignore, and it's been going on for so long that when it happened, it was like a tinderbox exploded, fire and brimstone and crazy and everything. And it made sense that it happened because they have not proven that we should trust them. They have not proven that we are safe. I saw a video, I wonder if I can find it, where people were sitting on their porches and they're being kind of dumb. But, you're like when they say you are quarantined or not quarantined, they have like martial law basically in most of a lot of areas in Minnesota last week. And they told you had to stay at home. How do you interpret that? Does that mean you stay and hide in your house? Does that mean you can sit in your yard? Does that mean you could sit on your porch? What is considered safe? Well, let's see. People on their porch. See if I can find it. I should have been more prepared for it. Okay, here it is. I'm gonna see if I can get the video to show. Come on. Okay, where did it go? Ah, stupid. Here, I'll go to different. USA Today, you let me down. How about ABC? I might have to just go to video. Here we go. This is the one. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to put the sound on. Add, remove, stop screen, share screen, Chrome tab. Oops. Here we go. I'm going to make sure I share sound on this one. So this is a real quick video. This is by a woman named Tanya Curson, and she was fired at by National Guardsmen as she stood on her porch watching the riots in, I think this was St. Paul area, but it could have been Minneapolis. Let me just scroll down real quick. Minneapolis. Okay. Now click this and maybe I'll make it bigger. So they're firing on civilians, and this is not abnormal. This is just somebody who caught it on camera, and it's going all around the country. I saw it's like every major city in the United States is going through this right now. And yep, Minneapolis, stopping by. Yeah, you're right. It's freaking nuts. It's just freaking nuts, and that you're on your own property, and the military can come and shoot at you while you're in your own home doing nothing but watching. And what about people who are defending their own businesses? How do you know? This is the thing I was thinking about is, how do you know who's actually the good guys and who are the bad guys? I mean, that sounds like a simple question, but when this is going on, you could get an armed group of people shooting at you, and you don't, I mean, would you assume they are the people protecting us or not when they're shooting at you? Now, it's the vigilantes that are too aggressive. There are, and I think about the non-aggression principle. People who are out there who are shooting at people and trying to hurt others, of course, those are the ones that they are going after. But when somebody's just sitting there not doing anything on their porch, it just feels like they're targeting people. And it freaks me out. I mean, seriously, I don't feel like there's any good reason to be shooting at someone when they're on their porch. However, the minute military people or police tell you to go inside, you should probably go inside, especially if they're carrying guns. I'm just saying this is common sense stuff, not saying it's right or wrong. It is wrong that they're shooting at the people. And rubber bullets, you can totally get hurt by them. I've seen people from a lot of the protests that have gotten hit in the head by rubber bullets and been totally injured, knocked out, bloody. And I mean, you could die. I've seen dents on cars. Now, there's anger, and that's why this is happening. And it's not, the anger isn't wrong. It totally makes sense why people are doing this. But injuring citizens isn't going to breed loyalty. It isn't going to make people love the cops even more, or the National Guard even more. It's just going to create more contempt and more vigilantes and more fear. I just, like, I don't know. There are a lot of smarter people than me that have ideas on how this could stop, how it could have never went in the first place. But what I do believe is that there has to be something of police reform that goes on throughout the whole country. My grandfather was a deputy sheriff, and the man, he was a part of the community. He went and he served soup at the food kitchens at Christmas time. He knew some of the local people who would they basically break a window so they could be in jail overnight and have a nice dinner. And he would treat them kindly, and when he saw them out and about, he'd stop and talk to them. He was not the kind of person who would be like you versus them. And this is something that's, I think it was Chris Holbrook said the other day, a lot of the cops that have done things in these communities, including the ones that hurt and killed George Floyd, don't live in the communities that they serve. And I think that is a big part of the problem, is you're not vested to get to know people. And really, if you know the people in the community that you're serving, it's very much less likely that you'll hurt them. So maybe they need to really think about it again. It is a sick cycle. And I think I saw, oh God, there's so many videos. I saw one that was it was like a cop. And then it was a video of a National Guardsman who was all geared up and he's so psyched to go out and hurt people. And when one of the rioters saw that, they basically they targeted him because he was so into shooting first and hurting people. Cops And soldiers should be there to protect people. That should be what we're doing. We should be protecting the community, that these are your people that you're protecting, not us versus them. And that's what we need to work towards. And I know so many people that they're like, just get rid of cops. I don't think that's going to work anymore. I really don't think it ever worked. However, we don't need so many of them. We need enough to like break up really dangerous situations, but we don't need them to systematically torture minorities. The majority, yes, exactly. The majority of the police force stationed in the 3rd Precinct were not from Minneapolis. And if people have no you don't have a horse in the game, or the horse in the race, as they say. Like, you don't live there. Why would you protect the people as if they were your own friends and family? And that's what it used to be like. You'd have small town cops. They knew everyone. They might do stupid stuff and still like have violent things happen. But in general, when you go to church and you see the people that you're protecting, you meet people face to face every day, and that changes how your behavior is. And I think that we need to have some sort of training that comes more from the heart, instead of shooting first, asking questions later. We need to think of it as like they're counselors. They're counselors coming into situations. Their force is the last thing on their mind. Instead of hurting people, they should be like, how can I help this person? And I hope that what we learned from this, and that we can grow from it and heal from this, is that we can get change going. And I think, it's actually kind of an amazing time, because we have lost everything. Like with COVID-19, like healthcare has made it so you are so far away from like what normal is. People have lost their jobs. People are furloughed. People are like, places are closing down because of this. I work in colleges. Our college is going to change. We've already gotten to this point where it's more online, but what else is going to change? I don't want it to be like 1984. I don't want it to turn into a Big Brother situation where instead of cops, we just are always watched by our cameras and our TVs. And if you do something wrong, then robots show up and banana stuff, right? Yes, I think we need to focus on healthy ways of making change, and growing community, I think, is a big part of that. What people are afraid of is that if we all have our lives entirely online, that we will lose touch with our humanity. And I think that when you rely on systems of surveillance on people and drones and things that are far away that dehumanize the people that you're watching, there is a definite possibility they could just go, well, this whole community is totally screwed up and we lost control. We'll just drop some bombs on it and start over. We don't want that. We want, like, our police just to care about the communities that they're from, to not kill people for a counterfeit $20 bill. Like, this is not the way the world should be. And God, I feel like there's so many things that we could be doing to make this better. And the things that are right are when people go out the next day after a riot, after looting, and they go, how can I help? And they go out and they clean up. And, like, did you get hurt? Okay, I have first aid equipment. How can I help you? Like, you lost your job. Like, I don't have much I can do, but like, come help me with this, and I'll make you guys all lunch, and we'll like help each other. And then, if you don't have anything, that's fine. I don't expect anything in return. I just want our community to come together and fix this. And that's what we should be doing. Not making it worse, not terrifying people. I've had people tell me that they've thought about leaving the country because they're so scared and like trying to find a way to get out. That shows that things have gotten so out of control. We need to help each other. And we got to start in your own community. I mean, really, you have to talk to your neighbors. You have to. And I think this is the only, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of good that can come out of this year, but maybe we can help each other and get through this. I don't think it's a hopeless thing. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today before I went into like over a half hour tangent about what's going on here is that with COVID-19 and with the riots, it's been a hell of a year. And people are really suffering. I'm suffering. I'm suffering from loneliness, depression. My husband's furloughed now. It's you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. I mean, it's starting to open up. Thank God. And I think that especially for the small businesses, thank God for them. And but there are a lot of people that don't have a voice right now. And one of the groups that I wanted to mention that I'm really scared for are nursing homes. And in all of this, I think nursing homes they mention them, but they ignore them. And I think that next year we're going to see that we have lost so many people because of government, state government, federal government's inadequacy in taking care of our elderly in nursing homes around the country. And if you know anyone who is in a nursing home right now, please contact your congressmen, your senators, your governors. Something has to be done to help them. They are, we've had thousands of people in Minnesota die, but over 80%, maybe 85, 82, 85, I have to look at the numbers again, were all people in nursing homes. Now, what did they do? You think, well, they must be really on this and taking care of people, giving them special attention, the best medicine, because we can contain it. We can help them. No, they don't send PPEs to nursing homes. They don't have the gear that will protect the people who work there. They don't have the gear to protect the people who live there. They don't let the people who live there see outside people. And yet somehow all of them are getting infected with COVID-19, because once they have one person in a nursing home and they contract it, do you think they take them out and put them in the hospital and take care of them? No, they leave them there. And in a lot of situations, this causes all the other people who are basically trapped, like you're on a cruise ship from hell, waiting and waiting, they all get infected too. And when you are over the age of 65, your chances are exponentially out of control to die from COVID-19. And some of the problems that they're also having is because they're not getting the gear and the equipment to take care of these people, the staff that work at nursing homes are terrified to work there and they quit. And who can they get to take care of them? So you're getting like one or two people left to take care of hundreds of people, and they're dying. So one of the things I really feel like is we get distracted easily. We, as a people, we look at the terrifying shiny thing right in front of us, but there is not being much said about the elderly in nursing homes. So I think that if you have prayers that are in your heart, please pray for the people that are in the nursing homes, as well as those being hurt by the George Floyd protests and the riots that ensue. And I want healing. I mean, that's like the whole theme of what I really want is I'd like to see things get back to normal. But I think that there are major mistakes being perpetrated right now against our people of color in our country, being treated poorly by police all around the country, and to the point that they're being murdered every day. Now, I hear people say, well, they're killing white people too. Yes, because it's so freaking out of control. They're killing everybody now. Someone told me a fact that I thought was really interesting. I think it was Chris. Yeah, it might have been from yesterday. That said that of all of the what do you call it? When they raise a complaint against a police officer in like the Minneapolis area, especially, it might have been all of Minnesota. Out of I think 19 complaints against officers, only one of them was convicted. And the one that was convicted was a black police officer who killed a white woman. So if that tells you something, and it should, that things are far from being correct or right now. Pray that these things start to change. Send word that you want police reform. Send word to your communities, to your city council. Start at home. If you start small and work your way out, maybe this will be something that catches on. Nothing is better than people working with their communities to find their own solutions. So please try, because we can't be having this every day. I can't be going outside every day and thinking, am I going to get killed because a police officer thinks I might be someone else that robbed a bank or something. You don't know. You don't know how this could be, or you're in the wrong place at the right time, and it can be just horrific. And I think we need to pray for the people who are in nursing homes. Can you imagine? I know people that are just losing their minds, and they can go and get groceries, and they can go and pick up food at a restaurant. If you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't see anyone you love, and you might be in the last 10 years of your life, and you can't go and see anyone or have anyone come visit you. And on top of that, you're being told that because of this, the disease that's out there, you have to stay there for your own safety. And that's the one thing, someone's going to say it. We're protecting them, right? That's why we do all of this. It's because we don't care about them. And I'm going to say that in the nicest way possible. We don't care about the elderly in this country. We house them in basically warehouses where they can live out the rest of their days, and many of them in terrible conditions, unloved, untaken care of. Some are luckier than others. But even in the best nursing homes now, if you get one infected person, they're trapped. How would you feel if you knew, like, you were in an apartment building and there was a person who had COVID-19 and you couldn't get away? You couldn't go get better equipment so you could protect yourself. You ran, there's no one you could talk to and go, I'm really scared. We can't have this. We are the most inhuman country for treating our elderly this way. We need to take care of them, and we need to start by talking to our government. And yeah, thank you for joining. I really appreciate that. God, it blows my mind. I found a really interesting article called Your Liberty or Your Life, Talking Point on Public Health versus Civil Liberties. And I'll share that on my free Liberty Librarian page. It's by an author called George Annas. And he talks about how after September 11th, 2001, the terrorist attacks, that our society, that public health should rely on the pre-First World War tactics of forced quarantine, mandatory physical examinations, and vaccinations to be effective against a pandemic. People believed it. National leaders have argued that the public should barter its civil liberties for safety against terrorist attacks. So the public health officials have argued that health is best protected by adopting a national security metaphor. 2001 is the excuse, but 1918 is the model. So they are modeling how they're handling this based on what they felt was done wrong in 1918. However, our technology has exploded, and there are other ways of dealing with this, but they have felt that the quarantine is the best way. And that's what they're telling everyone. They stay in place so you save people's lives. It's been drummed into our heads. And some people, even if they took down all the quarantines, they said everything's okay. Some people are never going to be okay. Not with any of this ever again. You got to believe it. I'm going to mention this article was written in 2007. And what I think was interesting about it is he's talking about how this model didn't work. And the problem with it was that militarized national security model of public health is confined to the USA, but that's not true. The World Health Organization, WHO, which Trump has basically said we're not a part of anymore, explicitly adopted a militarized security model for public health. So it said that preparedness for emergencies has become the new public health mantra. The phrase is better safe than sorry. We must exercise an abundance of caution and err on the side of caution are heard over and over again. This is the things that they say to you, as if these chants could ward off evil. We're all going to get sick. It is just the way it's going to be. Most of us who get sick are probably not going to die from it. And therefore, they're sacrificing human rights under the rubric of national security is almost always unnecessary and counterproductive in a free society. As Benjamin Franklin once said, those who would give up an essential liberty to purchase temporary security deserve neither liberty nor security. So why did the public health embrace the national security model after these terrorist attacks? The USA has become a nation consumed by fear. And this is from 2007. We are overwhelmingly, it's like a tidal wave of fear has hit our country. And not only do we have COVID-19, but now we have race riots, basically. And people are, they're worried that someone's out there sparking the flame to make everything fall apart, which I'm going to tell you. Your ideal mind may think that we got to take the government down. They are far more prepared than we are. One of the things that people have commented on is that they can't afford or be prepared enough to have PPE and gloves and the materials you need to, and like respirators to be safe during a health emergency. However, if a riot in a city like Minneapolis or around the country gets out of control with protests, there are predator drones and rubber bullets and smoke and grenades and everything. As far as the eye can see, they will never run out. Our priority is on holding down the masses and keeping them complacent. So it is not the way it should be. And this makes the fear grow. The fear will get out of control. And then the people that are left will be so afraid to even say anything, to do anything. And we will be in a 1984 society before long. So we've sacrificed rights. We're consumed by fear of people within. I remember when the Twin Towers came down, people in my small, stupid town, and I love my town, but there are stupid people, and they trashed a Chinese restaurant because they thought those are the people behind the Twin Towers, because they thought anyone brown or some other shade of white other than white was to blame. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a backlash we're going to see after the riots and the protests, that we're going to see backlash against Black people all around the country, because someone will be going, you are to blame for these riots, not thinking it's the white cop that killed the guy that pretty much is the reason, and the system that put him in power and didn't punish him for the multiple offenses that he had, and he was never going to be punished. And to be honest, he may be made an example of, but most of the cops that have done things to this point are not going to be punished, despite what we talk about today. Oh, be careful going to work, buddy. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, I worry for all of you that live in the bigger cities. I know this is still going on, and it flares and it subsides. It's like embers of a fire that keep burning and burning. And in some ways, I hope that it sparks change. I hope that it does. I think it's something that's been on a lot of our minds for a long time. Will it stop completely? No, it won't. it terrifies me that it's what keeps happening. But what was I gonna say? I'm looking at some of the main reasons in this double talk um, bases public health interventions as a national absolute safety. Unless you can prove there is no risk, you must act as a risk is 100%. And this is the mentality that's going on through public health now. It's patently absurd, says this author, but also gets public policy and public health policy backwards. What the point of it is, there should be no state secrets in public health. For example, the US government knows that an individual, group, or nation is working to weaponize smallpox. The best defense is to make this information public. So that way people know about it, and the failure of the administration to offer any evidence of having weaponized smallpox meant that it was probably that the administration has no evidence. Sharing information, being open, sharing, like if you know there is a disease that's coming and that you think that you need to have extra precautions, this is important. Now, telling people that they just need to hide from it and not have any information, which, by the way, I've switched a lot of my things for search engines to DuckDuckGo because I found that many of the Google searches weren't coming back with complete information anymore. So I like to study about health. I like to get different opinions, alternative treatments, what other countries are doing, and things are being shut down. Now, a lot of times they say it's to protect you, so that way you don't go out and try to drink bleach or something stupid. I want to decide for myself what I think is stupid. And I feel like the way that we're approaching this is that only those high on the mountain can get the information and they will disseminate it. How's that working out? I think it's going to be a very slow process if that's the way we handle things. So we need to have less of a government response. And I think this comes back to the way our whole system runs. We were talking earlier about how the police don't live in their communities. A lot of doctors don't get to know their patients. They have different patients all the time. They hardly ever have regular patients. They have crazy shifts. They're overworked. I think it's a lot of our healthcare system is part of it. We have made things too big and they're unwieldy. And honestly, because it has this huge power, we don't have the rights that we once would have, where we could question things and go, this isn't really working. We need to make changes quicker. And when you have too big of an organization, you need committees, you need to have discussions, I think they need to break these down into smaller bits so each community can decide for itself how it wants to handle it. Maybe your county is like Sweden. Maybe the next county over is locked down. But you can work with the people that you talk to in your own community to make this happen. So how that works in reality, I am not that smart, but I would like to see that there are some good changes that maybe come out of this. This article is really interesting. I'm going to share it. It's an oldie, but I like that they talk about preparing for public health emergencies such as a pandemic flu should be founded on protecting liberty, not diminishing it. There's a knee-jerk tendency in times of war and national emergencies to restrict civil liberties in order to counteract the threat. But history has taught us time and time again that restrictions are almost always useless and often counterproductive. Arbitrary and unlawful responses in the aftermath of September 11th have not helped make Americans safer or more secure, and pragmatically dangerous for the U.S. government to treat its citizens either as enemies to be controlled by force or as children to be pacified with platitudes. So please, if there's anything that you get out of all of the things that are going on, is that we need to treat this with openness and work as communities. And we need to stop some of the crazy ways our own society has built our health systems, our police systems, our military systems. And we need to downshift before it gets too late and we just end up destroying ourselves, because we're on the edge of this, right? It's always felt like we were on the edge, but I think we're closer than we've ever been. And I think now is the time to try to work on freedom, to work on being moral and loving as communities, as a world. I know it sounds like hippy dippy shit, right? But we need to plan for public health emergencies in a realistic way, in ways that protect and promote the health of the public, to think about what's good for all of us, not just the 1%, not just for some of us, like, in the world. We need to, if we are truly like this democratic society, we need to be thinking about how we help everyone here. And it doesn't feel like it's going there. Effective public health action must be based on respecting freedom and trusting our fellow citizens. The USA should return to the international arena and join other willing countries in proclaiming a new global health paradigm based on public trust, science, and a deep respect for human rights, not on fomenting fear. I just feel like there's so much more I could say about it, and I just went on and on and on. I'm worried, but I know that I see glimmers of hope in each of these communities working up to clean up, to make things good again. And I know that we can do it. I really do. We need to take care of each other, all of us. We need to take care of the people in our communities, our children, us, our parents, and our elderly that are in nursing homes. So if you want a way to use your energy, please don't go out and loot buildings, set things on fire. Please don't. The message is already out there. Please work on fixing your communities, making them the world that you want to live in, that you want your children to live in, that we can grow into. We can do this. It just sometimes feels hopeless because we have one thing after another. And if we have locusts next month, I am just done. Like, end of days, gonna sit and drink in my backyard and pet kitties all day. But I don't go too much into the other news. I feel like everything that we have is news. But I do hope that you send your cares on to your congressman, please. Everyone has their pet projects, but right now I really feel like we need to look out for our elderly people that are in nursing homes. They don't have hardly anyone looking out for them. And take care of your communities. Take care of you. Take care of your household. I pray for all of you, and I love you guys so very much. I hope that you have a better week and that it will be a little bit less crazy next week. I don't know, murder hornets. What's next, right? We're going to be so hardened by next year if it keeps escalating. But on that note, I love you guys. Have a great week. Stay safe. If you have any thoughts or anything that you want to talk to me about, send it on my Liberty Librarian page. I will be happy to chat with you, and have a good week. I'll play my end song because I love that thing. It's just nuts. Okay, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. See you next week. Bye-bye.